Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I want to begin, as we always do, by acknowledging we're on Treaty 1 territory and traditional homeland of the Métis. I'm joined by Jay Shaw, Assistant Chief Emergency Management. I'll provide some brief opening statements, as well as Jay will also do so, and then we're both available to answer your questions on the COVID update. Want to just acknowledge we continue to see new cases of COVID-19 in our community, including most recently 26 new cases in the city of Winnipeg. In Manitoba to date, over 32,000 cases. We continue to see ICU units, of course, being utilized in our community. In the last 7 days, we've had 174 new cases in the city of Winnipeg, and our test positivity rate, fortunately, does seem to be trending now down to 2.6%. That being said, I just want to remind Winnipeggers to remain vigilant, continue to stick to those fundamentals of watching your distance, wearing a mask, and washing your hands regularly, and ask that you continue to follow the recommendations that we're providing to you and are being provided to us from Manitoba Health. I want to start today's briefing by touching on vaccine deployment in our community. Since early December, I've been pressing the province of Manitoba to share their plans for vaccination rollout, and I've been advocating for priority access for our essential service personnel. I'd also like to hear what the provincial government's plans are for vaccinating unsheltered Winnipeggers and those affected by homelessness in our community. I'm going to continue to press. I'm going to continue to advocate for priority access for those who are at increased risk of exposure to COVID-19. Today, I'm very pleased the city is announcing a number of plans for reopening. As we see and are, I know, very happy to see warmer weather coming, patio season will be coming soon as well. As Jay will provide details on in a moment, the temporary patio registration program will be extended and will allow eligible businesses to operate under the summer temporary patio program from April 1st until October 31st of this year. Jay will provide an update shortly on indoor pools and indoor ice rinks. With warmer weather on the horizon, the city's pleasure rinks and outdoor rinks are now closed. And with the end of pleasure rink and outdoor rink season, I want to remind all of our residents, please stay off the increasingly less frozen waterways. With melting occurring as we speak, ice conditions can and are changing very quickly and without any warning. And what we really don't want to see is anybody going through the ice. So I want to encourage our residents, stay off the waterways. Please use extreme caution when you, your family, or your pets are around them. Thanks very much, Merci and Miigwech, and turn it over to Jay at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon. My name is Jay Shaw. I'm the Assistant Chief of Emergency Management for the City of Winnipeg. Today, we are pleased to announce the City of Winnipeg is extending the temporary patio registration program through the upcoming summer season. The extension of the program will allow registered eligible businesses to operate under the summer temporary patio program from April 1st to October 31st, 2021. As restaurants are forced to navigate the many challenges caused by this pandemic, we recognize it is important that we continue to work with business owners on finding ways for them to safely operate within the province's public health guidelines. The temporary patio registration program offers an expedited process for businesses to register their patios with the city and operate under established general safety guidelines. There were well over 60 restaurants that participated in the temporary patio program last summer, and we look forward to seeing many patios open and operated under this program again this summer. Businesses that wish to participate in the temporary patio registration program between April 1st and October 31st of this year will need to submit a new registration form with a processing fee. Any current winter patio registrations will end on March 31st, and previous temporary patio registrations that operated in the summer of 2020 will not be carried forward. Detailed information about the summer temporary patio program, including registration requirements, is available at winnipeg.ca/temporary patio. I would also like to provide a quick update on our city-owned and operated indoor pools and indoor ice rinks. The changes to public health orders regarding indoor pools and indoor arenas is welcome news. The loosening of restrictions, including opening these facilities to 25% capacity and allowing the limited use of change rooms, which makes it easier for us to resume services in these facilities. At this point, we are working towards opening indoor ice at Iroquois Arena, Century Arena, Terry Sawchuk Arena, and River East Arena for spring casual ice around March 15th. We're also working towards opening indoor pools by March 29th. St. James Civic Pool and Margaret Grant Pool will remain closed as capital upgrades are ongoing at those two facilities. The indoor pools will be open for aquatic sports groups, lane swimming, aquatic fitness classes, and limited public swimming, all keeping within the 25% capacity limits. We are in the process of recalling the remaining of approximately 340 community services staff who were on temporary layoff and hope to have firm reopening dates within the coming days. And finally, spring is in the air. So we are once again reminding everyone to exercise extreme caution around all Winnipeg waterways. Ice surfaces are quickly becoming thin and fragile, and falling into ice-cold water can be deadly. Ice conditions can change quickly and without warning. A message to parents: please speak with your children about the dangers of thin ice on our waterways. And to our dog owners, please keep your dogs on their leashes around the thin ice. Thank you, and we can now take your questions from the media.
Start with James from the Winnipeg Sun.
Yeah, I have a political question for later.
Okay, we'll wait if you can hang on.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Jeff from the CTV. Where'd you go, Jeff?
Jeff, you're muted.
Sorry, I didn't unmute. Same thing as Jim.
Same thing, okay, perfect. Joyanne from the Free Press.
I got distracted when your press release came out, pardon me, but what exactly is reopening for pools?
Sorry, what is reopening for pools? Well, right now we're opening our recreation services on March 8th. We're opening some for gyms, and now this is sort of the second part of that, where the pools are going to be opened. Is that?
Right, and what was the details of that? That was where I got distracted because the release came out at that moment.
Okay, let me reread that for you.
For permits.
We are working towards opening indoor pools by March 29th. St. James Civic Pool and Margaret Grant Pool will remain closed as capital upgrades are ongoing at these two facilities. The indoor pools will be open for aquatic sports groups, lane swimming, aquatic fitness classes, and limited public swimming, all keeping within the 25% capacity limits.
Okay. And sorry, was that a target date or is that a firm date, the March 29th there? Is that for all pools?
That's a target date, for sure, yep.
For all pools except for the two that are under reno?
Yeah, there's some critical infrastructure and capital programming that's happening, and they're getting a fresh coat of paint and some work done to them, so it's all good.
Okay. And just for the reasoning, what exactly were the reasons why the pools stayed closed longer?
Well, it's a combination of a bunch of things, but this has been a slow and steady approach. I think if you look right now, we've just had more new variants. We have to take a slow and steady approach to getting these things open. The public health orders have just changed to allow limited change room capacity, and now is the time to sort of move this forward. So,
Malika from Global.
This is for Jay. Just wanting to know the consultation that has been done with the Restaurant Association to help them out with, things that the city can do. They have some limitations still in place with the province. So what has the consultation been like with the Restaurant Association? I know that you're extending the patio, so talked to some, they're really excited about that, but anything else on the horizon at all?
I'll turn that question over to the mayor, but I'll say that the consultation between our PP&D departments and municipal accommodations with our Emergency Operations Center and planning is fantastic. And I know that we do have consultation with some of those groups, but I'll let the mayor.
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, the feedback that we've been getting from the business community in general is to be as flexible as possible. The expedited patio process that was launched last year is something that I think was well received. And those businesses that do want to establish patios this summer will have the certainty of being able to go through that process and then have the patios open hopefully until October 31st and to know with certainty that they can have them open for that duration. Also, the council direction on parking. We've provided flexibility in terms of some of the parking, whether it's the 1 hour free parking or just the flexibility for those that are working from home right now. I'll take this opportunity to remind everybody to download the Know Your Zone app because at some point in the foreseeable future, spring cleaning of our streets will occur. And we know we're navigating as a community the fact that people are working from home and their vehicles are increasingly on the street when they're at home because they're not driving to and from work in the same numbers as we're used to.
Okay, perfect. And Mayor Bowman, just to follow up on that expedited process. So for these permits, if they have it available to them until March 31st, it's now, March 4th. How long does a permit process going to take for, does a restaurant need to be applying right away to be able to get in for March or April 1st?
Yeah, I mean, the expedited nature of the process, I mean, in the past, it was a more time-consuming and intensive process. It has absolutely been streamlined, and I'm sure our public service can provide you with some additional information on how it's changed, but it's much more simplified for businesses. They're busy right now. Anything we can do to work with them. I know I'm expecting patio season is going to be pretty busy this year. People are anxious to get outside, enjoy the summer in a normal year. This year, I'm expecting, and I'm going to be one of them, who's going to be doing my best to frequent local businesses that have patios, in a manner that's safe.
Thank you.
Mike from City.
I have no questions on the reopening, thank you.
Okay, Joyanne, did you have any final questions on the reopening part?
Yeah, I do. So for the patios, I guess, folks who got, I think you said folks who got temporary patios last year do need to reapply this year?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay. And you said about 60 businesses got the temporary patios last year. Did you, I think there was a winter session and then winter became a massive lockdown instead, but did anyone really sign up during the winter for that?
I think we had about 3. So you're right, the second wave of the pandemic was impactful, and unfortunately, the public health orders changed. So, it's going to be great if the COVID cooperates and the weather cooperates and the public health orders cooperate, we can get patios open safely and hopefully as fast as possible.
And there are no safety issues, I guess, from the expedited screening process and application process. Nothing popped up really.
There's still reviews,
First round?
and there's still always concerns in terms of what we're doing. But we've been able to streamline the process to be able to sort of move it through a little bit faster. And we've done that with collaboration with our PP&D department, along with province and liquor and lotteries, and everyone is working together to be able to do that. But the kudos goes to our permit people to be able to get this process quicker. And they're doing it because the businesses need the help, so.
And sorry, did you already say when these businesses can start applying for the patios?
I think as soon as possible, like right now is what we'd like to see. Get those, go to the website, Winnipeg / temporary patio, get the information there and start getting those applications in, and then we can start going through them, and we can start going through any of the reviews and processes to get you up and running.
And then Winnipeggers should go
and
out
then ju-
and support. I'll just say Joyanne, and then it's up. It's gonna. I'll just encourage Winnipeggers. Let's get out there and continue to support local independent businesses. And many of the restaurants that we know are going to be applying for these patios are local businesses that hopefully Winnipeggers will support. They need the support right now.
We've also, going on to the pools, obviously this isn't swimming lessons. You said it's sort of limited lane swims and aquafit and that sort of stuff. Is there a challenge in having enough lifeguards for the pools? We have heard some feedback that maybe that got difficult during layoffs. Folks might not be coming back after they were laid off. Is there a shortage there?
I don't know if there's going to be a shortage, Joanne. What I can tell you is I have heard the same thing. A news story where there was some other private pools that had mentioned based on the availability of lifeguards. That's a skilled trade. You got to be able to bring those folks in and get them the proper recertification. So we're recalling our staff right now, and we're anticipating to be able to have that flexible timeline around March 29th to get those pools open. So I'm hoping that there isn't going to be any issues, but COVID has been an interesting animal to fight, and this could be one of those consequences where we have to take a look at it and see what it looks like. So I'm hoping that there isn't going to be any.
Okay. And I think, I asked one of mine earlier. I think that's it for me on the pandemic.
Okay, perfect. Just want to double check, Malika, if you had any final questions on COVID.
No, I'm good.
You're
thank
good. Okay, perfect. We will let Jay Shaw go, and we'll just do a hand over here, so give us a second.
Starting
It's running low. Thank you. We're good to go? Okay. Thanks very much. I'll just provide some brief opening remarks. Just want to update you on one matter and then open it up to questions to each of you. I want to just, by way of an update, I want to let you know I had previously invited and facilitated a meeting today with the union leaders of UFFW, MGEU, and the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service Senior Officers Association, along with Chief John Lane. I want to thank each of the leaders for their willingness to meet and to have an open and candid discussion about things that we all want, which is a positive work experience for all of our valued employees in the Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Service, and to ensure that issues in the workplace don't affect patient care. I want to just acknowledge and thank the members of the Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Service for the work that they do. This has not been an easy year in the face of a global pandemic. They do, at the best of times, difficult and challenging work, and want to take this opportunity on behalf of Winnipeggers to acknowledge and thank them for the work that they're doing to keep us and our community safe. I also want to thank the leaders of UFFW, MGU, and the Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Service Officers Association for their willingness to have an open discussion about systemic racism, issues between the workplace and unions, as well as issues between the unions. And I'm hoping that today's discussion will act as a catalyst for positive change going forward for all parties involved. With that, I'm available to answer questions you might have on that or other topics, which I understand you have questions on some other topics.
Hi, everyone. As is tradition, we'll move this to open scrum format, so please ask questions when ready.
Hey, James.
Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. It's James of the Sun here.
Hi.
Yeah, just I was speaking with a 20-year transit driver yesterday, and he's talking about being on the receiving end of a ton of racism, and he said it's, over the years, the problem is getting worse, and it is transit users abusing drivers verbally. And so I've spoken with the union about this, and the union is I don't want to say pointing a finger, but they are in a way pointing a finger at the city. So I'm just wondering if there's anything in the works to remedy this situation.
Well, look, I've been pretty open and honest about the fact that our community, like other communities in Canada, have issues regarding racism, and we're all affected either directly or indirectly by systemic racism and situations where we see overt and very visible racism directed at anyone in our community, whether they work for the city or city of Winnipeg or not. Racism is something that obviously we need to, as a community, continue to combat. And so we've been doing a number of things within the workplace, but also to try to facilitate greater change in the broader community. The Indigenous Accord was and continues to be one effort that we are leading on to facilitate not only greater dialogue, but positive change in the broader community. And so I'll take this opportunity to invite Winnipeggers that haven't signed on to the Indigenous Accord, including all of your respective news organizations, to consider joining us on our journey of reconciliation. Secondly, the reason why we recently announced the first ever Anti-Racism Week is because we are trying to facilitate greater dialogue and change in the broader community. Obviously, matters within the workplace where issues arise with respect to our employees. We obviously want to hold individuals accountable as appropriate. But we also need to be honest with our community that we all have a role to play in combating racism, each of us. And I know that's something each of you on this call take very seriously, and I've read, obviously with great interest, your articles over the years that I know are trying to facilitate greater dialogue and change in the broader community. The complaints that you're referencing should motivate all of us as Winnipeggers, both within and outside of government, to continue to try to be part of the solution to combating racism in all of its forms.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, could I get a clarification on something? Did you say you met with all of the leaders from those unions today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess how did it go?
You know what? I appreciate it. I mean, so I've met with all of our civic union leaders over the years, and have dialogue with each of them at different times. This was at my invitation. I wanted to provide a platform and an opportunity for the leadership of UFFW MGU, as well as the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service Senior Officers Association, along with Chief John Lane, to really have an open and candid discussion about systemic racism and the culture within the workplace. And I'm expecting, coming out of the meeting, there to be increased dialogue between some of the union leaders as well as with management and myself as appropriate, to see how we work more collaboratively and more effectively together to ensure that the workplace is as respectful as possible and that patient safety is obviously first and foremost. And I know the members of the Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Service take their jobs and patient safety very seriously. This was an opportunity to just have dialogue that I thought was needed.
Sorry if Joy, do you want to go or?
If you have one more on that topic, I have a different topic.
I'm changing topics, so if you have another one, go ahead.
Sure.
No, you can go. That's fine.
So the city is broadening the, horizon to find a new tenant for Esplanade Riel, Mr. Mayor. Why does the city need to look beyond possibly just a restaurant?
Well, it hasn't worked to date, and so I mean, it's a spectacular structure, but we've seen over and over again, long before I was elected, the model for a restaurant being very, very challenging, and so it's a structure that certainly I inherited as mayor. This council inherited. We want to provide a maximum flexibility for the private sector to utilize that space in a way that makes sense for their operations. And so you'll note the RFP is providing that flexibility. But the original intent of being, from what I understand, a restaurant that operates in a certain way has obviously proven to not be practical for that space. And so we have to be honest about that and be flexible with how we make best use of that space. I've certainly had, I've frequented that restaurant numerous occasions, including when it was a Sal's, and it's a spectacular space when you're in there, but there are some challenges of operating it, throughout the year.
And to follow up on that, I spoke with Earl Barish today, and he said, I don't see anything working there, whether it's a restaurant or some other business, unless there's some sort of subsidy from the city. The RFP kind of leaves the door open on that, asking the proponent, are you willing to pay all this, or what are you willing to pay? Is there any chance that the city would consider some sort of help to ensure a business may survive there?
I don't think that's the issue that we're looking at this time, Jeff. Obviously, the preference for me would be for the private sector to let us know what they feel could work in that space within their business model, and for us to be flexible in supporting that. The space is what it is. It's been there for some time, and it's a spectacular. It's really next to the Winnipeg sign and the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. It's the money shot for Winnipeg. It's a spectacular structure, a symbol for our city. It connects our predominantly Francophone community in beautiful St. Boniface with our downtown. But my preference would be for the private sector to let us know what they think could be a successful business model, and for us to work to accommodate that without subsidy.
What would you like to see there?
I'd like to see something successful. So, I want to hear from the private sector to see, there are bright entrepreneurs out there in Winnipeg who will look at that space and have some cool ideas about what would work from a financial perspective. And, we'll wait to hear it. It won't. I don't think a water park is in order. But maybe there's some other things that could be done that make sense from a business perspective.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So just on a different topic for me, we've been writing about some in our paper. There's a story today about some tensions between the chief of police and officers, apparently with some sort of memos going back and forth, and some other versions of memos that aren't actually from the chief. I guess, are you concerned at this point that there are tensions apparently between the chief and officers?
Well, I'll take the opportunity just to offer condolences. The members of the Winnipeg Police Service and the community are grieving the loss of some members, and I want to just begin this topic by offering our heartfelt condolences to the families and the members of the service that have been affected. Anytime we lose members of the public service in any department, it's something that we all feel. I also want to acknowledge the difficult, dangerous work that members of our Winnipeg Police Service provide each and every day. They attend to difficult and sometimes very dangerous calls. And I want to take this opportunity to thank them for the work that they're doing. Obviously, questions, some of the questions I know you're raising, Joyanne, are best answered by our chief and by the chair of the police board. They're not necessarily matters within the authority of mayor and council, but in terms of some of the commentary that we see being reported from the union leader that runs the Winnipeg Police Association. I'll just say this, welcome back, Mo. He's been largely absent from public view since about last June. And, he has been, when he has been public, very effective at voicing criticism, less effective at offering constructive solutions and being effective at making the changes that are necessary. Historically has been certainly someone who has fought some of the changes that we've been trying to effect, most notably on my part with a runaway police budget over the years that we've worked really hard to rein in. And he's opposed that quite vigorously, including running very personal attack ads in the last municipal campaign. And so you can expect to see more of that from him. That's been his leadership style and his stick for many years.
I think more than campaign issues, though, what do you have to say to the rank and file of the police and the union about that tension itself? What do you want, or even just beyond them, what do you want to say to them and to Winnipeggers about that tension there?
Well, my opening statements, Joyanne, were words of appreciation for the work that the members do, because there's no doubt that this year, in the face of a global pandemic, it has been a very taxing and difficult year on members of various departments, including the Winnipeg Police Service. And I want to thank the members. Obviously, issues between management and the union leaders are matters between them, and there are processes for some of those matters to be raised directly with the leadership in the Winnipeg Police Service, and I'll continue to support those efforts and the collective agreement that's been bargained in good faith by the union.
Is there an issue with control management over the officers or the chief in your view?
Well, the operations of the police service, I mean, under the provincial legislation, we're prohibited from affecting operational decisions and that kind of management. So, I have not been privy to some of the correspondence you're referencing, Joyanne. And so, I'm not able to directly comment on materials I haven't yet seen. But I will say that it has been a difficult year, no doubt, for members of the police service as well as other departments. With we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and so no doubt people are feeling that. And in terms of day-to-day management, I'll leave that to others to comment on.
This is also a question from my colleague.
Sure.
There appears to be serious fallouts from anti-police protests and public anger directed towards some officers. There was a report even that this is linked to a police officer dying by suicide. Do you believe that there is a serious fallout from that in Winnipeg, that the protests and the...
Yeah. You know what I will say is, look, I have been trying to effect positive changes with respect to the police budget. For years and years, it was completely out of control. And so we've worked really hard to bend the cost curve along with council. And I'll continue to work. We worked hard to vote in our budget for a funding formula to be developed. And, throughout all of that debate, let's keep in mind that notwithstanding anyone's views on public policy matters, what we don't want to see is hate directed at members of the police service or public officials, like our chief, members of the police board, members of council, public service. I've certainly been subjected to my fair share of very personal attacks. That comes with the turf when you're in a position of leadership in public view. I have seen some. What I would just say is, the more that folks can focus on the policy. And not really the individuals, the better it will be on the issues of funding for police, for example.
Getting back to the actual protests and the anger directed at police during those protests, is there more that you want the chief or the city to do to change that? Should the city and police be doing more to help officers cope with this?
Well, again, I'll leave kind of what measures are in place within the service to work with members that are affected by mental health issues and other issues where supports are needed, the chief would be best positioned to speak to that, and I know he has. But what I will say is our new chair of the police board and the chief have indicated the need for even greater dialogue with the broader community. That's something Councillor Chambers has indicated, and the police board has indicated an interest in pursuing, and I have been speaking with him and want to continue to support those efforts to increase the visibility, the engagement, and the dialogue with the broader public so that the Winnipeg Police Board can represent the needs of the community in their work as a police board. And that's something I know our chair has taken very seriously, and I fully support his efforts in that respect.
My colleague also wanted to know if you think that there's a systemic problem within the city's workforce when we've seen fire and paramedic conflicts arising. You've talked about that recently, as well as apparently some police service inner tensions arising as well. And if you think that there needs to be any kind of outside look at this or some other look at what's going on.
So that's a pretty broad question, Joy, and I want to make sure I'm answering the question you've asked. Are you able to narrow your question just so I do my best to answer it?
On behalf of someone else, but I'll do my best without
Sure.
losing it here. I guess what there's been tensions, WFPS, now appears tensions within WPS. Do you think there's a need for someone to explore what's going on there, what might be causing all these issues?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, the position of the Winnipeg Police Association has been pretty consistent. They've been strong defenders of the status quo for many years, in my view. They fought very hard some of the changes that we've been trying to make to the police budget over the years, as one example. It should surprise no one that there will be a difference of opinions between the head of a police union and management, or members of the broader community from time to time. That they have a role. I respect that role. They're going to represent vigorously the interests of their members, and that should surprise no one. Obviously, I'm appreciative of a chief who has shown a willingness to listen and to try to collaborate with not only the union but the police board and the broader public.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. That was a pretty broad question, so I hope I addressed it as best I could.
Okay.
So I can only see Jeff on my screen, so I presume you guys good otherwise?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
You're not driving, right, Jeff?
He looked
Yeah.
parked to me. I don't know. I think he's gone.
I know. I'm just joking. I know you're not. Okay. Have a great afternoon, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci,
Bye,
Miigwech.
thank you.
You bet.